This is Jason Morrison here. I'm going to be shepherding the conversation at the beginning of this session. We're just going to give a little bit of time for people to log into the Pathable platform. Okay, so let's get started. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Morrison. I am the president of the Pacific Institute and head of the UN Global Compact Sea Water Mandate. And I am going to serve the role of facilitator for this session today. Really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk about this exciting platform and where we're heading with its next iteration. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Next slide, please. So I'm going to try to set the stage a little bit by doing the formalities of an agenda review and presenter introductions. I'll also provide an overview of the current Water Action Hub for those of you who are not familiar with the platform. And then we'll pivot toward a sneak preview of where the Water Action Hub is heading under the 4.0 banner. I will start that and then hand to a colleague for a live demo. And then we're going to have a fireside chat with some leaders in the business sector to offer a perspective on what the 4.0 version of the Water Action Hub can and should do in order to be transformative in allowing for improvements in water stewardship practice and on-the-ground outcomes. And then most importantly, we're going to have a discussion with all of you, and we're going to encourage your questions using the chat function of Pathable to register where you'd like to have a conversation, and we'll make sure we steer those to the right speakers along the way. We'll try our best to summarize key insights that came out of the meeting, and then there's some next steps that we'll also put in front of you in terms of an opportunity to engage in Water Action Hub 4.0. So in terms of our speakers, in addition to myself, two of my colleagues in the Sea Water Mandate, one Leonardo Rodriguez, an engagement associate with the Sea Water Mandate, and Mailan Ha, the Sea Water Mandate deputy head. Mailan will be facilitating the fireside chat. And we have two guest speakers, Eliza Roberts, Water Positive Lead for Microsoft. Eliza oversees the efforts of the Microsoft to achieve their 2030 water positive goals, including the replenish and partnerships around WASH. We also have David Walker, founder, president, and CEO of Avista Technologies, a firm that specializes in reverse osmosis and industrial wastewater treatment, where Dave has spent his entire career. Looking forward, Dave, to hearing your perspectives on how this platform can move forward the agenda for corporate water stewardship practice. So for those not familiar with the Water Action Hub, this is a platform that was launched in 2012 by the Pacific Institute in its capacity as the Secretariat of the CEO Water Mandate. It is a free online collaboration and knowledge sharing platform for all things relating to water and climate resilience. Today, we have over 1,100 organizations in the platform with over 1,800 projects listed. And ever since the beginning of this platform, it has evolved based on the needs of the water stewardship community and ways that we can improve this facilitation platform in a way that meet those needs. I just also want to recognize our collaboration for many years with CDP, drawing on data that has been provided by companies that are reporting to their water questionnaire around the water stewardship programs and projects and areas of interest for collaboration on water. So thank you for that partnership. So for those that don't understand or are not aware of how the current Water Action Hub works, let me just walk you through some of the key elements of the hub today. One is a geospatial mapping function, which allows companies that have created a profile to map their geographies of interest and to be able to find other partners and projects that have interest in that same geography and or along the same thematic lines. I'll come back to that in a bit. Through a collaboration with the World Resources Institute, we now have overlaid very high-level global data sets that actually go down to the country and basin scale around 3 dimensions of water, water stress, sanitation, and water quality. That allows people to be able to understand the degree to which certain water challenges may or may not be pronounced in particular geographies where they have interests. A key function of the tool is about community building, and this is about trying to match users' interests based on their profile with other partners and projects that are related. And so there are ways that the community is created through country portals or industry sector portals or thematic portals. And it's set up such that when a newcomer joins the hub and creates a profile based on the contours of that profile, it will automatically try to make suggestions on projects and partners that may be relevant for that organization to engage with. There's a function around following, so you can follow activity within a basin. If you can set your profile such that if a new member joins a project or a new project is added to a basin of interest, you will be notified in mechanisms that you would like, either through the platform or through email. The platform's currently in 3 languages, English, Portuguese, and Spanish, looking to add more languages over time. And lastly, there's an internal direct message chat function, but also a monthly e-newsletter where members that are using the platform can understand where the hub is heading and how they can utilize new coming tools as they come online. So that's the current hub today. And now for a pivot to where we're heading with the platform effective toward the end of this year and in the years to come. So the new tools that we are introducing start with a self-assessment. This is both quantitative data, performance data, but also qualitative management-related information. And through these 2 self-assessments, the user will be able to receive benchmarks on a quartile basis showing their performance relative to their industry peers. And just to be really clear here, the information inputted is considered is confidential, and no one is able to see any other information but their own, except for to be able to measure it against the industry averages for that particular benchmark. I think that's an important thing worth highlighting. There's also a solutions library. Now, this used to be a standalone platform of the Seal Water mandates that was known as the Water Stewardship Toolbox. And now the way that this is being integrated into a suite of tools, it is such that when an organization finishes the self-assessment and identifies the benchmarks where there's relative strength and weaknesses, the solution library will be able to pull out and suggest resources, guidance documents, free online tools, and case examples that highlight leading practice in areas where the organization can focus attention. Just to recognize through collaboration with CDP that the benchmarks are drawn in part on the questions that are utilized in the water questionnaire for CDP. And then the Collective Action Hub will maintain its shape and structure as it is today, as a portal within the overarching Water Action Hub for those that are interested in driving partnerships in water stress regions where they have an interest. So that's the constellation of the new tools that are being introduced. And with that, let me hand to my colleague, Leo, to go through a sneak peek at the new platform. You're muted if you're talking.
Thank you, Jason. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. My name is Leo Rodriguez. I work for the mandate and I work on the Water Action Hub. Today, I'm very excited to show you all this project that we've been working on for quite a while. As Jason has just mentioned, the introduction of these tools really marks a shift in how we think about the Water Action Hub. Typically, we thought about the Water Action Hub as this collaborative platform for organizations to find local partners and partners around the world. We're now shifting to an idea of a new ecosystem of online tools. And as Jason has already mentioned, I'll be showing you two self-assessments, a solutions library, and a benchmarking tool that shows you where you are in relation to your industry peers. And so overall, the goal of these new tools is to add to the Water Action Hub a robust tool ecosystem that allows the hub to meet companies where they are in their stewardship journey. So with that being said, let me go ahead and give me 1 second. Going to be showing you all a live demo of the website. 1 second. All right, cool. So here we are. This is the homepage of the new Water Action of 4.0. We are on the dashboard of the dashboard of the 4.0. So
Neil,
yes.
I am still seeing on my screen the PowerPoint deck that was the slide with the. Okay.
How about now?
It looks like it's updated on it's showing my scorecard summary is what I'm showing on the screen.
Okay, cool. So we can all see
Very
the
good.
dashboard of the homepage, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jason. So this is the dashboard of the Water Action of 4.0. And so just looking at it at a very quick glance, starting on the left-hand side of the menu, we can see that we are currently on the dashboard page. And then we see both assessments, the practice and the performance assessment, a solutions library, which I will be going into in a moment, and the collective action hub, which is the current Water Action Hub, and then the scorecard, which I will be discussing in a moment as well. So going on to the practice assessment, once a company takes this self-assessment, they will be benchmarked according to their company's performance on its water stewardship practices against industry peers. And so the questionnaire considers 28 very specific metrics, but we typically refer to them in 4 categories. We look at enterprise practices, value chain practices, direct operations, and external engagement and collective action practices. And so once a company is registered on the hub and they go ahead and they begin to take their survey, they'll be directed to right here. I would like to direct your attention to up top really quickly. Once again, in order to access any of these tools, a organization has to be registered on the hub. So in this instance, I'm taking a survey for this test organization, and I'm in a very specific industry, which I will be notified of right here. One of the exciting parts of this survey tool is that through our partnership with CDP, we have been able to leverage some CDP responses that companies have. So what does that essentially mean? Well, let's one of our goals with this new tool is to make sure that companies aren't double efforting their collecting data. We don't want them to collect too much data, and so if at any point we have similarities with a CDP question, we'll go ahead and indicate where the user can find that type of question. And again, this is just meant to save the user a bunch of time in terms of completing the survey. We want to make sure that there's not too much of a time constraint, as we do realize that people don't have too much time. And so fortunately, that is the same for the performance and the practice assessment. The performance assessment is more of a qualitative assessment. This assessment benchmarks the company's water performance against their industry peers and is organized in 3 specific categories aligned with the UN SDGs, fundamental and aspirational metrics of water quantity, quality, and accessibility. So what have I reviewed so far? Well, in order to take these assessments, a user has to sign up for the hub, and then they can take both assessments. Once a user has taken both assessments successfully, they will be shown their scorecard summary. And once a user completes both assessments, they see 2 types of scores for both the practice and the performance assessments. So for both assessments, companies will receive an overall quartile score, which compares a user to their relation in their industry peers. And then they will see a second score, which is a further breakdown of the metrics that I described earlier. So for the practice assessment, they'll see scores that align with enterprise, value chain, direct operations, and external engagement and collective action practices. For the performance results, they will see results for water access, water quality, and water quantity. So I reviewed the assessments, this benchmarking tool, how to see your scores, and this is now where the solutions library comes into play. So let's say I've done all that, and I'll go ahead and look at my recommended best practices. So let's say I see my scores for my enterprise practice results, and I can go ahead and see my scores right here on this graph. And if I want to scroll a little bit more, I can see other recommended actions. And so these are all tied to the solutions library, which again, currently have over 500 resources of, case studies, technical documents, guidance documents, and many more. And, one of the exciting parts of the launch, or one of the exciting parts of today is that, just like how we are improving the Water Action Hub as it stands, we're going to continue to add to this, database, this resource library. And so that number is currently a little bit over 500. We'll be adding more in the future as well. So exciting stuff on all fronts. But let's say I wanted to look at a case study or a document on enterprise practices, and I wanted to find a resource on setting contextual goals. I'll go ahead and click on this first link right here, and I will be redirected to that resource within the solutions library. Okay, so if I wanted more information on this document that I just clicked on, I can look at the primary functions of the document, as well as a detailed description of what this document is, as well as some other related resources. And so one of the really fortunate parts about this tool is that we have allowed the solutions library to be categorized in a number of different ways. For those who are familiar with the hub, we have a lot of different tags on the Water Action Hub, and that it will be extended as well to the solutions library. So I can click on any one of these tags if I'm interested in reading more of these case studies or any more documents surrounding this as well. So if I were to go to the solutions library homepage, I can see all the documents that are currently available. Currently, we have 564. I can look at specifically at recommended actions. I can favorite a resource so that I can return to it later. And if I were to look at the menu, this top bar right here, I can look for specific documents when they apply to this, where I am in my water stewardship journey. I can look for documents in specific languages. If I have a specific scope in mind, whether I want to look for documents addressing my corporate water use, documents related to manufacturing or value chain, I can look for that as well. If I'm interested in a specific region or a case study or industry sectors, and then types of best practices. And so that's how the solutions library ties into the self-assessment and the benchmarking tool. These new self-assessment tools offer a unique value of proposition, and that they allow businesses to really compare where they are in their water-related performances and practices to the industry peers. It allows them to understand the relative maturity of specific elements of their water practices, and it allows them to get tailored recommendations for resources that best help them advance their water stewardship practices. And so ultimately, we want our tools to help companies identify where they are in their water stewardship journey, and then provide them with next steps. So if a company can take their self-assessment, they receive the benchmark, they will be then directed to either resource documents in the solutions library or the collective action hub for further opportunities. And so, as mentioned before, the goal of these tools are to make them very accessible. And so, the total sign-up time to sign up your organization and register on the Water Action Hub is a little bit under 20 minutes. All you need to do is just create an account on the Water Action Hub, register your account, and then begin adding details about your organization. And then all the tools that either Jason has mentioned or these tools that I've shown today, all of them are accessible. It's completely free. And with that being said, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Leo. I will once again encourage folks that have questions to put them in the chat function for Pathable. And while those are coming in, let's just immediately move over. I'm going to turn things to Mylan to help shepherd the fireside chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jason. Just a really quick introduction to myself. My name is Mylan Ha. I'm the deputy head of the CO Water Mandate. I've been working with the mandate and mandate team now for just over 11 years, and have a very, very excited to see the evolution of the Water Action Hub and to help shepherd this fireside chat, talking to a couple of our mandate endorsing companies who have supported the development of Water Action Hub, particularly in this evolutionary phase as we develop it into this suite of ecosystem of tools, as Leo and Jason has mentioned. Just in general, it's really quite exciting, right, to see the evolution of the Water Action Hub. If I think back over the last decade, when we first began working on water stewardship overall, a lot of preliminary tools that were being developed at the time, whether it was aqueducts, the water risk filter, the CDP, were really just being launched and were being developed. Today, we're seeing from what Leo has just shared in a constellation of existing resources that the hub is accumulating over 500 different resources that expands different regions, different industry sectors, developed by not just developed by companies as well as NGO partners and others. And so we're seeing that there's actually a really meaningful constellation of tools out there for companies to use to really advance their work and action on water-related issues, to really accelerate what they're doing in order to have impact that we're all looking to see and to bring about the changes that we need to see in basins worldwide. So let me just start off. I know Jason did a very quick introduction to our two colleagues here, but maybe I'll turn it over to you very quickly to both you, Eliza, from Microsoft, and Dave, to just do a quick introduction to yourselves. If you could do introducing yourselves and your companies, and also kind of just answer, why water? Why is Microsoft interested in water-related issues? What's really driving, your work in this space? And then also to you, to Dave, in terms of Vista Technology, which is a global brand of Carita overall, of how you're approaching water-related issues and its importance to your company.
Great. Well, I can kick it off. I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay. Jason, Mylan, you guys clear? Great. So Eliza Roberts, I'm the water lead at Microsoft, and Microsoft has supported this tool for a number of years. I've watched the tool develop over the past number of years as well, so it's really exciting to be here and be a part of this conversation. So my job at Microsoft is to ensure that Microsoft is on track to meeting its water positive by 2030 commitment. So that includes replenishing more water than we consume across our global operations. It includes providing 1.5 million people with access to clean water and sanitation services, and then supporting the business groups across the company in reducing water use. We also have a focus on water policy and tackling water digitization. And why water? Well, there's no company on this planet that can operate without water. Microsoft also needs water to operate. A big part of it is for cooling data centers and for running the campuses that we operate across the globe. And we want to be a part of the solution. We want to make sure that we are managing water resources effectively and working with other companies to help tackle water challenges that are just growing more extreme every day.
Great, thank you so much, Eliza. And Dave, over to you.
There you go.
You may be on mute.
So Carita and with the Vista as the platform within, we've been in the water industry for over 70 years, and we're helping companies of all sorts to use their water wisely and so forth. And through the years, it's become more and more important because of the shortages, the droughts, and the efficiencies that are needed. And so with that focus on the overall water aspect comes with that energy savings, comes with its CO2 footprint, and there's so many parts of that. And so that focus for over 70 years, and it's been a great industry. The sustainability is the big thing. And so when Carita, their philosophy is to study the properties of water, master them, and we'll create an environment which nature and humanity are in harmony. And that is the basis of what Carita has done and what we are doing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Eliza and Dave. Just really a general question, really, to start things off. See what you've seen from Jason and from Leo and your own kind of testing of the new Water Action Hub tool. What really excites you the most? What's really game changing in terms of the new hub?
Yeah, well, I can kick off an answer to that, Mylan. So I think we've really liked that the tool builds off of what CDP is already asking, but then adds more granular detail for key questions where you really could use a bit more information and context when comparing yourself to peers. There are also some other great additions like the solutions library that will be critical for providing companies with resources to understand how they can improve their practices and performance over time. And I think, as I noted, water challenges aren't going to go away. They're just going to become more intense. Private sector has a really unique role to play here. And my hope is that tools like this will really help accelerate more corporate action on water.
And if I can add too, along Eliza's comments there too, I agree. It's got a great potential, and the assessment function is good. The solutions library, and the point about this is that this collective action is needed with all organizations. It can't be just one, and so that's where this action hub, it provides that platform to promote the collaborative partnerships.
Great, thank you so much to you both on this. Following up on kind of this aspect you kind of both highlighted, right, in terms of the self-assessment aspects of it, actually being able to identify the solutions and so forth. What is it? How would you envision your companies potentially utilizing these tools, either in your own operations or with your business partners?
Well, I think most companies in this space use benchmarking to see how they're comparing to peers and other leaders in this space. It's something that we update frequently. We want to make sure that we're taking responsibility for our water use and doing everything we can to manage that. And understanding what peers are doing can be an important driver for helping to make the case for things. And so this tool will definitely be one that would be used as a part of that benchmark process to see what other peers are doing, both in the tech industry, but also across other sectors that are leading on water.
Great.
And I'll add to that too, is that, so for us, we're in the water industry and we're helping to treat all those systems. And so because of this, we also have a lot of tools. But what the Water Action Hub does is it allows people, again, to assess where they are, to benchmark, as Eliza said. And so that's important. And then it's to go and find those solutions, because it is not a one size fits all. Water chemistry is extremely complex. And so that's the important part, that benchmarking and then what you can do.
And just one more thing to layer on there is that I think for people who are for companies that are just starting, and for people who are starting in water related roles within companies, it can be overwhelming to find all the resources and figure out where water is, what guidance exists, what doesn't. And I think having this all in one place and being able to access it all in one platform is really powerful.
Great. Just kind of building off of that as well, as we kind of mentioned, right, the hub is an ecosystem of existing kind of tools. How do you actually see it complementing and building off of what's already out there, being built by others in the stewardship space that would allow kind of your companies to move to the next level?
Dave, you want to start?
Yeah, Eliza, you've had all the answers up till now. I think it gets people to a start on some of the solutions library. However, as I said, each thing is individual, just like we're all individual people, that each water application has its individual aspects to it. So the solutions library gets you started, but it's not the end all. We need to rely on those companies need to rely on reputable firms to help them, and that they can. But it's maybe a tool to do a trust but verify type of a thing.
Yeah, and I think the tool will probably be used by people differently depending on how engaged their company is on water, how new they are to water or not. I think for people who are newer, I think all of the pieces will be really helpful, right? Because you'll be benchmarking, and then all of a sudden it will tag the key resources that you need to be accessing. For companies that are a little bit more advanced and are already doing benchmarking and have already accessed these resources, I think some of this will then layer on to what they're already doing. And so I really appreciate that you guys are creating partnerships with CDP, also with WRI, and layering that data as well, because ultimately there is no one tool that can do absolutely everything. And so something that's really key in water is making sure that people are aligned and working together to help solve these challenges.
Great, wonderful. David, one of the things that you've been mentioning a lot is the it's unique aspect of the solutions library. Just wanted to go back and kind of probe a little bit in terms of the motivation, right, of Karita for supporting the development of this tool. Is it what was it really that kind of drove you all to say, you know, this is a tool that we want to support, we want to put some time, resources into to building it more? How does it relate to your business overall?
Right. So it relates to, as I said, we're very focused in on the stewardship and the global aspect of the water supply is very important. And so this speaks directly to the world's scarcity challenges. And the fact is that it'll take more than a single organization, as we discussed. And this is why we believe the Water Action Hub, it's an important tool to connect organizations and lead collective action. So it's the needing leaders in this that are not just, you know, it's a group of companies.
Very good. And then, and to Liza, to one of your comments in relation to kind of the benchmarking aspect of it, right? You know, I think some companies might be looking at this going, great, you know, we're ready to start this. We're ready to utilize this. We have an idea of our stewardship work. We can utilize this to find what we want. Is this equally as applicable for those who, in your view, like if you were to work with suppliers or some others who might be new into the stewardship space? Is this equally as useful for those companies who may not be as advanced, maybe just starting to look towards, you know, beginning to think about what can I actually do on stewardship? How would you see utilizing such a tool as these for the array of different companies and organizations out there who are thinking about water?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think there is some benchmarking that's publicly available that companies can access, but for a number of sectors, it's lacking. And so there's for companies that want to do benchmarking, you need to either pay somebody to do that, a consulting firm, or you need someone in-house to do it, and it can take time. And so being able to just enter your information, press a button, and compare yourself to the peers, and then put that in a deck and share that with your executives and say, this is what all of our competitors are doing, and look how far behind we are. That's powerful. And so I hope that for companies that are just starting their journey, that will be a tool that they can use to help make the case for water moving forward.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, if I can add to that on the benchmarking, it's important. And yes, there's the aspect of that we're behind, but even if the benchmarking shows they're ahead, there is still opportunities to reduce, reuse, and use that water more efficiently. So the benchmarking is a start, but there are opportunities at each and every site and company.
Great, thank you. I want to pivot a little bit towards the aspect around collaboration. You kind of have both mentioned this, and both Microsoft and Karita are in the Water Resilience Coalition that was launched by the mandate in 2020 as a platform to really accelerate action on collaboration and stewardship overall. You know, how have you seen or potential use of the hub to try to help the companies within the WRC sort of move to, and enable for the collaborations that happen, as well as the other kind of key elements, right, in the WRC that's related to really being best in class in operations and so forth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I think the Water Action Hub piece, where you can enter locations and find out who else is working in those locations, can be really powerful. You know, some companies are going to connect one-on-one with others that they've worked with in the space over the years, but they're going to be hard to reach locations where you don't know who to partner with, but you know that you alone as a company cannot completely solve water challenges in a basin, right? You need to do it together and partner with other companies to do that. And so I think that piece of it in particular will really help on the collaboration side. I think also I don't know if this is as much about collaboration, but I think the case studies are really helpful. Leading companies showing what they have done, what they've learned, being transparent about the challenges they've faced. Because when you are on this journey and there are so many companies that still have a long way to go, you learn so many things along the way. And if we all keep that to ourselves and don't share that, then others are going to have to face those same challenges, and we're not actually helping to solve water challenges as quickly as we can, or manage them. We're not going to solve water challenges.
Great. Thank you so much, Eliza. Anything you want to add to that, Dave?
No, just that, it's a great tool, and it's part of a tool chest of information and the way to connect. So yeah, that's all I've got. Great.
We've got just a couple of minutes left, and I kind of wanted to leave with the end of kind of like a if you had one key message, right, to those in attendance here, and also those who might watch the recording of this session, around, why should I even think about utilizing Water Action Hub? Really, what's unique, and how does that help me? What would your message be to those?
Well, I haven't seen another tool out there that brings together all of these pieces together like that. I have not seen a way to benchmark yourself against peers anywhere. Unless you're paying for it or working with a consulting firm to do that. Access to these water resources all in one place that can be really challenging to find, especially for those who are newer to their journey. Layering in the WRI aqueduct piece. So basically like a one-stop shop for all of these water tools that companies need to support them as they make progress against their water strategy and commitments.
Great, thank you, Eliza. Any last message?
Yeah, just my message is the seriousness of being responsible with the water, because reuse, reduction of water, it's very, very important. And there are unseen situations with the groundwater depletion and water quality that's not seen by everybody. And so all of us as citizens of the world need to be focused in on that responsible use of the water. And this provides a great opportunity for that platform and those discussions and the tools to use.
Great, thank you to you both, Dave and Eliza. Let's bring everyone back now on screen. And I think there's some questions that have come through the Pathful platform, which I actually cannot see on my end, but some colleagues have been sending me some questions. This is a general question around collaboration on the Water Action Hub. Anyone who's on the panel, feel free to kind of jump in. But have there been really good examples of where the hub actually has enabled some of the partnerships and collective actions to occur? And there any way to kind of to search and find these potential case studies? So how has the hub been used to kind of facilitate some of these collaborations and partnerships that you've seen?
Yeah, I can take that one really quickly. So, the utility of the hub really comes in the fact that it's such a versatile tool. Today we've outlined a lot of different tools that, enable these types of connections. Whether that's, organizations looking for partners in a local basin, or just trying to find, who or what type of actions are being done in that basin. There are examples of companies looking for, other companies to partner in, or just looking for advice on how to address issues within the supply chain. COVID was a very particular time where companies were sharing, information with one another via the Water Action Hub. And so there's a lot of examples, but, again, the hub is such a versatile tool that it's one of those cases where, if you're looking for a specific resource, the amount you put in is the amount that you're going to get in return.
Great. Anyone else have any examples of the use of the hub and collaborations?
Yeah, I'll just add that to the part of the question around are these collective actions searchable? And the answer to that is yes, both on a geographic basis in a basin maybe of interest, but also along thematic lines. So if you're interested in partnerships that are oriented around water reuse or water access, sanitation, and hygiene, or nature-based solutions, you can set the search such that it's both geospatially relevant, but also along these thematic lines so that you can see which projects are tackling what kinds of issues in those areas.
Okay, thank you all. Another question gets a little bit into the granularity of the hub, but within the self-assessment tool, is there a way to screen for issues around water access, sanitation, and hygiene, or the human right to water and sanitation?
What's the question again? Sorry.
Within the self-assessment tool, is there a way, are there questions actually within the self-assessment tool that allows for screening of water access, sanitation, and hygiene, or the human right to water and sanitation?
So the performance assessment does look at the SDG as aspirational metrics of water quality, access, and water quality and accessibility. That's what the performance assessment does. There are plans to look at sanitation a little bit more closely, but this is just the initial stage of the rollout.
Great. Another question that came in is related to, I think, that my general question around where the Hub 4.0 kind of sits within the ecosystem, right? And does it allow companies to compare to CDP water, TNFD, and other emerging frameworks? How would the team see this? This might be to you, Jason, or to Leo.
Yeah, I'm happy to try to take that on. I mean, as Leo mentioned in the demo, the ambition here is to align as much as possible with existing frameworks and databases and information survey instruments that are already in use, and that will include the existing and emerging ones, including the most recent framework put forward through the Valuing Water Finance Initiative. It'll always be in everyone's interest, we think, to try to maximize that alignment. That said, there's always going to be an evolution of practice, and therefore the way that you think of leading practice, if you are a company that has committed to leading practice, the way that you might think of how you get to that top quartile for a particular benchmark may entail actions today that are not as robust as actions 5 years from now. So over time, what we think of as leading practice is an evolutionary understanding, right? So right now, those quartiles are based on what we deem to be the 4 segments of what's not even on the radar of a company to the activity that is really considered leading practice today. And I think all of you that have been in the water stewardship space for a long time that know that how we thought of the scope of leading practice on water 10 years ago has definitely evolved. The notion of contextual water targets didn't evolve then. And 10 years from now, there will be other ways that we think about it. In the origins of this tool that was created in partnership with McKinsey, it was simply because the Water Resilience Coalition members had committed to leading practice on water stewardship. And there was a not so rhetorical question of how do we know we're achieving that aspiration of implementing leading practice? Because there was really no way to robustly do such a self-assessment. And that was the genesis of the development of this tool and the benchmarks therein. There's also a sense, I think, worth echoing that Eliza's point that there really hasn't been real-time feedback loops for companies that are trying to assess where they are in their water stewardship practice and trying to understand what they should be focusing their activities on immediately going forward in terms of top priorities. So I'll stop there.
Great. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Mylan?
Please, Liz.
Yeah, I'm curious if you guys can talk about the ability for companies to compare themselves to sectors, and then also if there are specific questions for key sectors for tech versus apparel, et cetera.
Leo, I'm going to put that one over to you because you've been into the mechanics of the sector-specific benchmarks.
Yeah, can you repeat the question one more time? I know it was a 2-part question.
Yeah, just sector-specific approach, both in terms of developing questions that can apply to different sectors, and then also ability for companies to compare themselves to specific sectors only.
Yeah, so this is, this is the initial phase of the rollout. And so at the moment, we are not developing sector-specific questions at the moment, but that question has come up numerous times as we have alpha tested this and show, trusted partners the tool. So that does seem to be the direction that a lot of companies would like us to go in. So again, it is, it's on our radar, but this is the initial phase of the rollout. In terms of comparing yourself to other industries, we're working with other functionalities with the tool as well to try and just make the comparison across industries more useful for the companies. And so, all that is to say is that, we're still developing the tool and that we're excited with the reactions that we're getting from it.
Great, thank you.
Great, a couple of other questions that have come in. It's related to the public sector, right? In terms of, the first one is around the question of, it's very clear that the hub was built to on the basis of engagement with corporations and a number of the major stewardship NGOs that work with corporations. Is there any plan to actually also engage with the public sector on the Water Action Hub to help ensure that it's aligned with SDG priorities? And that if it's a case where companies are engaging, right, with public sectors, to do so in a way that that the public sector is not overshadowed and under influence in that space.
I can try to take that question on first. So they're great questions, both of them, from Colin and Madeline. Hi to both of you. The short answer is that the way that this platform can engage the water sector and public sector decision makers more generally is still in the road ahead, right? I think it's a fair assessment, Colin, that the primary user so far and audience, as we originally conceived of the Water Action Hub, were the business community and their partners that they're working with, typically NGOs in these various regions. But over time, we see a huge potential to be able to connect this more directly with public sector counterparts. And I think the water resilience assessment framework and the metrics that are being used in that to connect public utilities and basin planners with corporates and NGOs is going to be a really rich place to try to build that out over time. One thing that's worth mentioning around how we are thinking of the platform to drive collective action does in fact take into consideration priorities that are defined by public sector interests, all the way from the international level down to the local level. So within the Water Resilience Coalition, one of the problems that was identified by member companies and our partners within the WRC is that everyone has a very different understanding of what the priority water challenges, the shared water challenges are in a particular basin. And in fact, a lot of companies historically have spent time trying to do a diagnostic of the basin to figure out, based on its water use and water footprint and impacts, what are the key issues that it can be focused on. If you think about 15, 20, 30 companies doing that diagnostic independently, working with consultants, but not sharing that information, it's a hugely inefficient way to do this, right? So where we have headed is the notion of doing an open source shared diagnostic of the basin, which does two things. It helps establish what are the key priorities for a particular basin in terms of the most pressing and acute water challenges for the region, but also establishes a baseline, which then allows for all of the collective action that happens in that basin to measure whether it's having positive impact on that issue over time against the baseline. And the way that we have been constructing that basin diagnostic intentionally aligns with SDG 6 and the subsidiary targets therein, as well as some of the water-related targets in other SDGs, including around flooding and natural disaster. So what does that give you, and what does it tell you? What it tells you is that when you're evaluating the conditions in a basin and which shared water challenges to focus on, you're doing so based on data that's generated by local government oftentimes, or national government, and that allows you to make an evaluation of which of those issues to prioritize in that area. The beauty about doing it this way also is that it allows for identification of where there's shared purpose and the opportunity to collaborate between public and private. Because if, for example, in a particular region, the real issues that are showing up are natural disaster flooding due to monsoon events, and the fact that a large percentage of the population lacks safely managed sanitation or safe drinking water, then that set of priorities and actions will allow corporates and NGOs and their public sector counterparts to work on that shared challenge, which is in the language of the SDG 6, toward outcomes that everyone aligns on, their shared purpose there. So I think there's, intentionally, we're very conscious of not usurping any role that public institutions play in water resource governance and decision-making, but instead trying to set up a system for action and a baseline for understanding of priorities based on that public sector generated data and information. Hand it to you, Leo, to see if there's anything you would expand on in that answer.
I think you summarized it perfectly, but the development of the tool of the Water Action thus far has been, concerned itself with, engaging more with the public sector. And so I would just like to say that, up until now, the Water Action Hub has completely been focused on that. And there are, we are still developing that tool even further. So this introduction of these new tools does not mean that we are forgetting about the old hub. We're still developing the Water Action Hub, and we'll continue to add to it, in the future.
Just fill out this, looking at some of the comments that have come through the chat as well. Yeah, that the hub is open to any entity to utilize it, from the public sector to NGO to local communities, and to contribute content to the hub, whether it's lessons learned, whether it's actual potential partnerships. It is an open platform in that way. All really requires is a email address to do so. And then as Jason kind of mentioned, right, in terms of the of where we're headed, right? Utilization of the hub for individual companies and the benchmarking towards the collaborations, there'll be a big piece of this that will need to connect to the public sector and priorities, as has been mentioned. So it's a tool in the full toolbox around the collaborations piece. Any other final questions?
Looks like you might have one in the Zoom chat from Alexander.
Sorry, I missed that. Yep. So in relation to in addition to the benchmarking practices, are there any elements that are built into the Water Action Hub that also would allow for estimation of the value of water?
I can try to take that on. Short answer is that we feel that there are other tools already in the public domain that do this fairly well already, and therefore there's not a need or a value to replicate that function in the hub itself. There may be opportunities down the road to link more directly, but some of you may be familiar with the Smart Water Navigator, which is site-based, but also has some enterprise level components around trying to understand the value of water and the value at risk through that. And there's also an emerging tool called Water Plan and some others that are trying to allow companies to assess value at risk. I think that what's likely to happen is perhaps better connections with those platforms, but not an attempt to try to reproduce that within the hub itself. Alexander.
Great. Any final questions? So might turn it back over to you, Jason, for concluding remarks.
Have we gone over to the Pathable as well to see if any questions have come in there?
I did not receive anything else.
Okay.
My side.
All right. So in conclusion, there are some next steps asked, and Leo, maybe if you can run through those, and then I'm going to try to reflect on a couple of things that came out of today's discussion.
Yeah, of course. So the possible next steps. The first is join the Water Action Hub. The whole process takes about less than 20 minutes, about 2 minutes to create your own personal account on the Water Action Hub, about 5 minutes to register your organization, whether nonprofit, company. We have a wide range of users on the hub, and then finally just add projects to the hub. If you just add more details about the type of work that your organization does, so that other users can be familiar with the work that other organizations can be familiar with the work that yours does. So some possible next steps: join the hub. If you are interested in the self-assessment tool, feel free to reach out to be a beta tester and take the survey. And then, begin just adding to the global community that is the Water Action Hub. I'll go ahead and put my contact information in the chat. And so again, feel free to reach out and join the global hub community. We are 1,100 strong and growing by the day.
Great, thanks, Leo, and thanks for pulling together the information for this session as well, and for the live demo. Thanks also to our guest speakers and to those of you who took time out of your day to be with us today. Appreciate it. In terms of the self-assessment tool, I think many of you can probably see the potential that this can have to be a game changer. But ultimately, the tool will only really be effective if we start to populate it with those that are willing to enter their information and use that benchmarking platform to drive their own organization's priorities on water stewardship. So the benchmarks get more robust as more use it. So if you're already a hub user and you have potential to get other organizations in your sphere of influence to take the benchmarking assessment, we'd really encourage you to do so. We're looking to have a formal launch of the Water Action Hub 4.0 later this year. Watch this space. And we'll, of course, do a fair amount of outreach to try to market it and get as many organizations as possible to use it. I guess some of the key things that came out of today's discussion are questions, are very good ones, around kind of how does this self-assessment tool align with external processes and efforts underway? And how do we make sure that we are always capturing the best thinking on leading practice? And so that, just like the hub has been since the outset in 2012, that is somewhat of an evolutionary journey. And I'm hopeful that those of you that are that see value in the hub can help us shape that journey in the quarters and years to come as we go forward. The tool right now is not perfect. We will all admit that. It will need to iterate its way to something that's really solid. But if you think that there's an outcome at the end that would be really useful for not only your organization, but for others in this space to move organizations along on this journey of performance on water, then we really hope that you will come in and help shape this platform going forward. So with that, thank you to all of you, and look forward to seeing you at other CEO Water Mandate or other Stockholm World Water Week sessions. Thanks all.